सब्सक्राइब करें, बेल आइकन जरूर दबाइएगा।
In this section, we are going to discuss about the threats, vulnerabilities, and risk. Now, these all three threats, vulnerabilities, and risk are very important for an organization because with the help of threats and vulnerabilities, we can define the risk of what would be the risk for the organization, and we can minimize that particular risk to an acceptance level. So we'll talk about that. Let's discuss one by one threat, vulnerability, and risk. Now, in a very technical term, before proceeding with technical terms, let me give you a very basic example that will help you to understand and correlate these threat, vulnerability, and risk. So let's take an example of your home, right? You have a home and you are just in that home. Now your window is open. Now let's suppose a mosquito, right? A mosquito from outside your home just came from your windows and bite you, right? Now think from yourself that what would be the threat, vulnerability, and risk here. So threat is nothing but the mosquito who actually come and bites you. Now from where it has come, that is the vulnerability. Your window is vulnerability. That is the weakness part from where the mosquito actually enters. So mosquito, which is a threat, enters through a window. Window is a nothing but a vulnerability, and the mosquito bites you. That is the now what could happen with you? Dengue, malaria, anything. I mean, this is just an example, right? So whatever the disease is going to be happen, that is a risk. So in very simple language, if I say threat into vulnerability is equal to risk, right? Now let's proceed in a very technical term and let's define the threats. What exactly the threat? So threat is nothing but a malware or might be a attacker. We are uh, we are predicting here that a threat could be a malware or a attacker. Now, then what is the vulnerability? Vulnerability is nothing but a weakness, weakness of a software having some lower version. Weakness might be happen related to some input validation. These are some vulnerabilities I'm just talking about. So that could be a vulnerability, right? Now, what would be the risk? So let's say there is a particular vulnerability, right? An attacker executed that particular vulnerability, right? And your system got compromised or remote code execution has been taken by the attacker. So that's where the risk is. How much critical sensitive data uh, he can take from your organization. So that was the risk. I hope uh, that you can say that example is correlating all these technical terms. Now here is the asset you are saying, right? So don't confuse here. There is assets because in the asset there might be some vulnerability, there might be some threat present, and for that could be some risk. So here if you can see risk is equal to threat into vulnerability. Now the same example which I gave you, you can again take can understand from this figure. So here is a threat, right? The attacker is a threat. Now he somehow figure out that there is some vulnerability which is related to insecure site, which is not a HTTPS, that is the HTTP, right? Now through that he got to know the customer, right? Which is through a insecure connection. Now once he connected with this customer, he can give anything. He can just hack his laptop, compromise his device, and take whatever he wants, right? So that's where risk is equal to threat into vulnerability. So attacker is threat, vulnerability is your whatever that happens here, that insecure site, right? And here is the risk. A bad guy could intercept and steal sensitive customer data, which is nothing but a MITM, man in the middle tech, right? So I hope this with the help of this example that would be very clear. Now this is just a revision type, so you can go through all these details. Let me just highlight quickly. So threats are potential dangers in the digital world, like hackers, malware, as we discussed already. Vulnerabilities are weakness in the systems. Risk arises when threat exploits the vulnerability, right? Threat exploits the vulnerabilities causing harm, right? Identifying threats, vulnerabilities, and risks is essential for cybersecurity and essential for organization. Understanding these elements helps prioritize security efforts. Cyber threat can include virus, phishing, and unauthorized access too. So vulnerabilities can be software bug. It could be a weak password like admin, root, tour. These kind of very weak password, but default password I'm just talking about, or you can say the misconfigured settings. Managing risk involves taking steps to prevent or mitigate threat levels. Effective cybersecurity aims to reduce risk to an acceptable level. Now, what is that acceptable level? So it's nothing but you can say a very informational alert, or you can say the very low category, right? P5 bug, you can say, where they can accept, but it's a low, so they need to fix it. Now regular risk assessment helps organization stay proactive and secure. I hope this the concept you will get that what exactly this threat, vulnerability and risk. So that's it in this section.
सब्सक्राइब करें, बेल आइकन जरूर दबाइएगा